Studio mics are up. Please silence. Good morning once more, Lagos. You're listening to Smooth Breakfast with Valentine.
And with Folu.
It is 7:31. Today is Wednesday, the 21st of November. And in the studio with us, we have got our fantastic analysts. We have Gbolahan in the studio. Good morning, Gbolahan.
Good morning, Folu, and good morning, Lagos.
Great. Adedunmade also joining us this morning.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Lagos.
And we have got Devoe Okorie. Good morning, Devoe.
Good morning, Lagos. Cool, my next level transition.
Right, there you go. We are delving into the stories this morning, so join us in conversation on the different platforms.
So you can join us on YouTube where we're streaming live. Type in the search box Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And of course, send your messages through to us in the search box Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And of course, send your messages through to us via WhatsApp. WhatsApp number 0809 444 0981. And of course, on Twitter, use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
So our first story, let's stay with you, Devoe, for this. APC is reacting to a campaign logo plagiarism allegation. They're saying that their next logo was a plagiarized version of Rex's Institute's education program logo. But in response to that, Festus Keyamo, part of Buhari's campaign organization, his spokesman, said, well, they went and collected a different logo, crafted it as though it was ours, and put it up on social media. That is fraudulent. Your thoughts on this?
Well, for children who don't know what clever by half means, that's the title of this story, because it's a little matter, but it's been played up by the opposition.
Absolutely.
To the extent that there is a resemblance of the APC campaign logo with yes, someone else somewhere. His reasons for why it wasn't the same were very immaterial. But the truth is, there is a plagiarism history with this administration. The first time was in 2016. Buhari's Change Begins With Me speech, which was observed to be similar to that of Obama's 2008 victory speech, which they had said that those who were responsible for such would be sanctioned. Now, whilst whether there's a logo commission or very low on the priority of Nigerians at this point in time,
yes.
And I beg of this case it was PDP to give us some constructive and developmental opposition. And what we mean by that, in this time in season, whilst Nigerians are trying to make a vote, prove to us that you can see through the loopholes with the current administration, or why our priorities on security, economy, just equity. We don't need red herrings. We don't need to be chasing, how do they call them, wild gooses in the forest.
Thank you very much for that, Devoe. So let's move on to something that is rather concrete and that we must talk about. Adedunmade, I'm staying with you. 33 billion naira fraud. The indicted NEMA hunting staff over refusal to forge and backdate documents. Information has been put in the new Telegraph, and they claim that it is from, and they go as far as to name people who have been unceremoniously transferred. The posting of Aminu Boy Ringim, Assistant Director, Accounts and Finance, posted from the headquarters in Abuja Zonal Office. And Bakar Taminu, Chief Accountant, posted from headquarters to Enugu Zonal Office. It would be interesting to get a bit more information on the reasons given for these transfers. But also, let's not forget that what they're accusing Mai Haja of participating in is forcing staffers to backdate documents so that it appears that he's being more constructive. Meanwhile, he's still got a lot of questions to answer in front of Abi House. What are your thoughts?
Since the House of Rep brought out this report on the DG boss, not agency, it's actually been very interesting because it's been one revelation to the other. Now, the Nigerians will be quite interested to know that these allegations of fraudulent practices actually did not begin with the report, because sometime in January, there was a query given to the boss, that is, I pronounce his name, my Haja, thank you very much. So, yeah, what I would like the Vice President to let us know is what were the results of that query, because
you want the Vice President?
Yes, because he is the chairman of the board, so, and they need to release to Nigerians the results of what discovered then, because then the allegation was that the monies meant for beef materials meant for victims of the 2017 flood, which affected people, was actually wrongfully diverted. Now, there were also allegations that he removed the Abuja office from they were currently staying and paying rent of about 7 million to his brother's place, where they were now rent of about 6 point something million. Now, apart from this, there is also the impact that this had to the lives of the people. Is why is he still in this position? Thoroughly, even stepped aside, resigned. They don't want them to be an investigation going to
agenda, and the work has already begun. So this election, therefore, is a choice between going forward to the next level or backward. He then does go on to say vote massively for this government because the former government must not come back. Devoe, I don't know if that's the criteria under which I want to vote, just because I don't want something else. I must vote for something that I'm not necessarily passionate about. I'm sure that's what a few Nigerians are thinking. But what are your thoughts in terms of what he's pointed out, looking at the history and, of this administration so far?
They have come again, and we have to keep our ears and our eyes open and think with our heads, because many posers are going to be thrown at the public, which, based on hindsight, we need to start discussing history, because one of the characteristics of Nigerians is that we forget very easily. We forget the pain and the suffering. Fashola is here pushing the bid for the re-election of APC. And he first starts off by saying that jabbing the last administration, which is the PDP, that there was system interference. Ministers were always being asked to give contracts, and that that has not happened to him in his present condition. Likewise, what did they do with the oil revenue? They're important questions, but however, the question should fall back on them. We need to question, what have you done in your own 4 years? Now, he mentioned that the 16 years there was an infrastructural gap, that the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Second Niger Bridge, the Abuja-Kano Road have been giving some form of infrastructural framework budget in bringing down the figure, as well as supplying for it so that it would be completed at the end of the day. We need to ask ourselves, how far have those budgets gone? Those who live within those areas can witness whether any change has happened. Now, the last one I think was the lowest, and I think it's getting to a point of insult. He said, well, if you vote the APC in, that's Buhari, going for a second term, the presidency would shift to the southwest if PMB wins.
But what had happened is that they just went straight to that was actually monitoring the pipeline, and they attacked them, trying to steal firearms. Also was what was reported in the story. So when you look at the incidents, it raises the question that there were 5 of them, and unfortunately only one of them got shot dead. And so what happened to the 4 others as well? So how come 5 people were attacked and 1 security agent was able to overcome all 5 of them, and was then able to shoot at one of them? What happened to the other 4 or so? So it raises a lot of questions. And when we look at the situation, it's not the first time that this has happened as well, so that we have the NSCDC kill people along the petroleum pipelines also. So we're wondering as well, so that is this just a case of extrajudicial killing that has happened here, or were they truly trying to actually attack the petroleum pipelines? It's a one-sided story at the moment. But what has happened actually is that the investigation is being carried out by the Panti unit of the police in Lagos. So we're hoping that they would actually be able to come to a logical conclusion with their investigation.
Thank you very much for that. Gbolahan, thank you.
Yinka sent in a message on WhatsApp, says, Devoe, plagiarism is not a small matter. People fail project works in sane schools like the ones in the western part of the world.
Okay.
Based on that. And thank you very much for your messages. Keep them coming to WhatsApp 009 4440981. We have this story from Premium Times newspaper. According to this report here, it says no Nigerian state can adequately finance its budget without borrowing, and that's a report that's coming from the Federation. That's at the monthly Federation Account Allocation Committee meeting, that FAAC meeting. Since the beginning of 2018, they said no state in Nigeria can finance its budget. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, set this one. The details, the analysis of the FAAC disbursement for the third quarter of the year, that was in excess of about 2.1 billion naira. And they're saying, I mean, in spite of the fact that the states are collecting huge sums of money, billions of naira, every quarter of the year, they still need to borrow more to sustain themselves.
Yes, and I like the way you put it, billions of naira. It makes it look as if it's something big. It's actually not, because the NENTI report in its transparency is showing us, it's even referring to it as hypothetical revenue figures versus the budgets that are projected by the states.
But it's real money. It's not like it's just something.
Yes, it's real money, but in layman's language, your means are not sufficient, or in another layman's tongue, insufficient funds. Okay, so the government ATM is really insufficient funds. Now, even though on the back of the fact that NENTI also observed that there was an increase in FAC distribution as of 2018, meaning it's been increasing. I think this is due to some stability and the oil price. The state, however, as a whole are indebted. Now, 3 of the states are about, the difference about 50 billion, about 14 states about 100 billion difference between their revenue projections and what they're getting from FAC. And then some fall into 100 billion above. Lagos, Ogun fall into 200, 200 billion, but despite the fact that Lagos does have high revenue figures.
Yes.
Now, this is data for us to break down. It's simple. Nigerians, please, come this election, don't just collect, the vote buying, the 5,000, the akara, the moi moi, and the recharge cards that they send you. Ask these governors their plans in how they intend to raise the internal generated revenue,
yes.
how they intend to make their own states productive. All states have solid minerals. All states have a number of Nigerians and citizens. What are you going to do to ensure that our state is working and that we're not every 31st of every month running to Abuja to collect a check? As you can see, the minimum wage lacuna spells this out correctly. They can't even pay 18,000. So what are we talking about?
We're watching. Thank you very much, Devoe. ThisDay newspaper is next for this report. Telecom services may shut down in Abuja and 10 other states. Adedunmade, according to this report, it said there are palpable fears that 10 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, may experience total outage of telecom services in the next few days. Why? It's because several base stations were shut down by the Kogi State Internal Revenue Service. The who's crying out, making the world know, the nation know about this, is the Association of Licensed Telecoms Operators of Nigeria. They call themselves ALTON. They said the revenue service, the Internal Revenue Service of the state, Kogi State, brought to them over 13 fines. They said they've been asked to pay, and these fines are outrageous in their own understanding, that they've been almost bullying them every time to pay these fines, in spite of the fact that the federal government has asked them to not to be very careful in their dealings to make sure that they continue service. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you'll be surprised, and most people also be surprised to know that though there are 13 fines, the state is actually asking this telecom companies to pay over 36 statutory and non-statutory taxes. So every one of them has to pay 36. Now I wonder if this now relates to every particular base station, which I'm sure that it does. But I want to put this in context for our listeners. Now I just want you to imagine if your cell network is no longer available, if you can no longer use an ATM, if you cannot get access to your funds, if you cannot get access to emails,
or pay through POS,
or pay to POS services right now. Just imagine how frustrating that would be to you right now. And that is what can happen to a number of people in various states, like this report is saying, if action is not taken immediately. Now we're talking about emergency services, banking services, communication services, and this will definitely bring hardship on quite a number of people. We're talking millions of people here. It is very important that the Kogi State government is meant to understand that all these services are critical to national infrastructure.
Yes, Adedunmade, very well said. But still, does that mean that if you have this backing by the government and you feel that your services are very sensitive, does that give you automatic permission to flout the law or ignore your taxes? Or
Definitely not. But what I will implore the parties in this time to do is to use mediation. people need to come to the table and they need to discuss. The state government has to allow some leeway and everybody has to shift positions. Now, I'm also worried about the ex parte order that was obtained by the state government in order to actually carry out the sealing of these base stations. Now, I would like our judiciary, particularly the judges, to pay attention to some of these issues, because sometimes you might realize that the judge may not even know the impact of the order that is being given at that particular time. So even the state government themselves will not be able to carry on business. So they need to come together and they really need to talk about this. Mediation is actually the way to go.
Very quickly, a couple of messages that have come through. Ayo says up on Twitter, Ms. Amide says, logo plagiarism, really blaming the president for the non-performance of the graphic designer is uncalled for. If there's anyone to blame, it should be the graphic designer, not the president. But we've also got this comment up on WhatsApp from Mary Tom, who says, my problem with the APC Next Level logo isn't plagiarism, which in itself is a national embarrassment. No. I'm more concerned that their arrow marks us as going backwards and they say next level. Nigerians, take note, she says.
Ouch. Attention to detail. Let's move on to the next now. From Premium Times newspaper, experts decry non-release of 55 billion naira 2018 basic budget fund. We know that the health budget for 2018 was about 1% of the national budget. And now it so happens that the budget for the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, that's what this one is marked as, hasn't been paid yet. And we, according to this report, we have actually, well, it's not just according to the report, we have a few days to the end of the year. And we know how it is. The new year turns in, we go into elections, a new administration comes in, and then 2019 budget is being talked about. What happens to these funds? Gbolahan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, this is a report that was raised from an event that was held by the Development and Research and Project Center. And this issue was actually raised by the senior technical advisor, who is Emmanuel Abanida, who talked about the 1% that was promised, which is money that has been promised under the National Health Act for Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. And what that fund is supposed to do is supposed to be just 1% of consolidated revenue, which is amounts to about 55 billion naira or so in the 2018 budget. And that fund is meant to be used for basic healthcare amenities in the rural areas and to help improve on the universal healthcare system that we have in Nigeria at the moment. Of course, we know what our issues are with healthcare in Nigeria at the moment. We have one of the highest infant mortality rates.
1 in 5 kids die before the age of 5.
Exactly. So we have one of the highest maternal mortality rates as well too. So there's so many issues that we have in our healthcare system. And what this event was all about was just about bringing awareness to the people and to the populace generally, to alert everyone that, you know, government needs to do a lot more with releasing of the funds so that they can get down to the nitty-gritty of improving our healthcare and well-being in the system, in society. It's very important, and you know, there's been so much clamor for improving our healthcare system. You know, when you talked about this 1%, this is actually 1% which is not part of the budget for healthcare. This is just money that is meant to be added onto the healthcare budget in order to improve, you know, the wellness of the citizens generally. And it was also mentioned as well too that the vice president did actually promise in August that this money was going to be released. Then this promise was made at the ThisDay's health policy dialogue in August, that they were going to release the funds in August. But several months on the line, we're still waiting to receive that fund.
Thank you, Gbolahan. New Telegraph has this story. PDP members sue Adeleke for presenting fake certificates at the just concluded governorship election in Osun State. Adedunmade, in this report, the Senator Adeleke is facing this court case, and those who dragged him to court are members of the same party where he belongs, by the name Awoshin Olalekon. There's J.J. Thomas and Awodi Reshino. They joined the Independent National Electoral Commission and the People's Democratic Party in these suits. They're asking the courts to replace Adeleke's name, who was declared the flag bearer of the PDP for that state, replace him with the first runner-up at the just concluded primaries, really before the election was held. That's Dr. Akin Ogumbi. They said he's meant to be the one to bear, the champion the cause really for for the party. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, this I'm going to be very brief on, particularly because I remember that just a few weeks ago we were here talking about two different suits against Mr. Adeleke, which had actually been struck out by the court. This was because the parties had come to some sort of settlement. Now, the issues in those cases is actually what is being reintroduced here now. So I want to believe that this is just a form of politicking, some people just trying to get attention within the state chapter of the PDP, especially if it's in support of their own candidate, which they feel should actually be the one to bear the flag of the party in the state. However, I also note that the police actually arraigned Mr. Adeleke sometimes in the last week of October on this particular issue. So, and I cannot phantom that case has been decided, and neither has it been struck out. So what, if I were his lawyers, what I would just do is ask the court to strike out this suit for being an abuse of court process, because really the court cannot do anything until the issue of the criminality of either of putting a false certificate is determined by the court, which the matter is currently before. And of course, when that one comes, they will go and appeal to the Court of Appeal. When that comes, they will go and appeal to the Supreme Court. And by the time they hear their case, the 4-year term is already done.
All right, so Vanguard newspaper is next with a story. Revealed Governors champion 2012 fuel subsidy removal. Who's saying this? The former president, Goodluck Jonathan. He launched his book yesterday. The title of the book, My Transition Hours, in 194-page book. At the event was in attendance notable personalities, including a representation for the president, Muhammadu Buhari, where he made some laudable comments about the former president. But essentially, in this story, he's saying that 36 state governors in his administration pushed him to remove the subsidy to provide more money for them, and at the same time, rallied people to protest against his action that instigated. What are your thoughts, Malal?
Well, this is coming off the back of our great Occupy Nigeria situation that happened in January 2012, then where there was suddenly Nigerians woke up one morning to find out that the petroleum pump price had gone up from 65 naira to 97 naira without any prior notice or prior information given to the citizens or so, and everyone went up in smoke and went out protesting against this. So, our great former president, Goodluck Jonathan, released a book, just as you mentioned yesterday, on his 61st birthday yesterday. So we're wishing him a belated birthday. And in that, he mentioned that, it was actually an agreement between all 36 governors and himself. But unfortunately, the governors hung him out to dry, or so. They turned their back against him only to say that they were not in on it. And he particularly mentioned the current governor of Sokoto, which is Aminu Tambuwal as well, too, that he was actually the one that orchestrated all of this while he was the House of Rep speaker then, or so, that there were situations where they actually, for the first time in Nigeria, that there was actually a preliminary proceeding
On a Sunday.
on a Sunday as well too, that was held, all due to this petroleum subsidy that was taken off us. So I mean, we're looking at this situation now 6 years down the line. We're still talking about the petroleum subsidy situation going on, and I still have a feeling as well too that who knows, our children might also still be talking about this petroleum subsidy situation many years down the line, because Nigeria is just a country where we keep on revolving issues time in, time out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just like that, we've come to the end of Freshly Pressed officially. Let's see if I can round up with a couple of messages. Gia from VI says, I want to collect vote buying premium. You cannot ask aspirants questions because they short of money. If you want to ask questions, you should not collect the money, period. Our Gwengos is very emotional about this. He says calling GJ a hero of democracy because he conceded defeat is just silly. Lauren Gbagbo of Ivory Coast and Yaya Jammeh of Gambia were all disgraces and forced out of office when they both refused to leave power after being voted out. Hence, GJ has only done himself a favor by leaving office and does not deserve an award for this, he says. Oh, well. Thank you you very much to our analyst for coming in this morning. Gbolahan, we appreciate you. Find him up on Twitter as at Mr. G Quest. Adedunmade, you can find exactly by that name on Twitter at Adedunmade. And Devoe Okorie is of the same name as well, at Devoe Okorie up on Twitter. Coming up next, we will be talking sports inside the locker room here on Smooth Breakfast at 8:15. So do not touch that dial.